Hey, welcome to the She Thrives Club podcast. I'm so excited that you decided to tune in today and listen to this episode. In this podcast, I'll be bringing on inspiring guests where they will be sharing their experiences, wisdom, and practical advice to help you thrive in business, faith, and life. We're kicking off this podcast with one of my dear friends, Meri Duarte. This woman is such a beautiful soul. She is filled with so much wisdom. Meri is a powerhouse. She is a wife, a boy mom, an entrepreneur, and pastor, and her greatest joy is serving Jesus. In today's chat, we're going to be diving into comparison as a believer and an entrepreneur. Meri opens up about her highs and lows as an entrepreneur, her wild shift becoming a photographer in the wedding industry, and so much more goodness. Let's get into today's convo. You're listening to the She Thrives Club podcast. I'm your host, Valentina, and in this show, you'll be joining me and inspiring guests having incredible conversations. Here, we're dropping wisdom, sharing vulnerable experiences, and practical advice to help you thrive in business, faith, and life. I'm excited that you decided to listen in. Let's get into today's episode. Meri, welcome to the podcast.
I'm so excited.
Oh, I'm so excited that you are here, my friend. I know that every time we either voice message back and forth or text back and forth, it's just always the best conversation, and in person is even more. So thinking about guests to have on my podcast, I was like, who feels really aligned with Christian, and entrepreneurship, mama, all of the things, and I thought of you for one of the first ones. So welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited that you are here, and let's get started. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Let's do it. Well, first, I just want to say thank you for thinking of me and for allowing me to be part of your dream. I am so pumped. So I believe in you. I'm proud of you, and I'm so glad you're doing this. Okay, so about me, I am a wife. I've been a wife for 10 years.
It's been 10 years?
10 years. Can you believe that?
Wow.
It's crazy. I am a mom of 2 boys. I have a third boy. His name is Einstein, a little doggy. Can't leave him out.
Can't leave him out.
Nope. I have 2 boys, Mateo and Kai. They're 6 and 3. They are so much fun. I hope the recording doesn't catch the noise that they're making in the background, but they're here at home.
We love it. We love it.
Yeah. And then if you're a mom, you understand. I currently serve as a pastor at my church. I've been an entrepreneur for 8 years, and I just love preaching God's word. And I'm also creative, a content creator, and all the fun things. So yeah.
Yay, I love that. Her boys are the cutest, and you and Martin are such great examples of marriage and also ministry. So I love you guys. Also, fun fact, I've known Meri. If she's been married for 10 years, I probably know her for way more than a decade. So we met in dance ministry at church, and we've been friends ever since. So that's really cool. I can't believe it's been...
what? I don't know, 10 years old, maybe?
Probably a little bit older, but yeah, 12, maybe 13 years old. It's you've been around.
Yeah.
You've been around. Okay, so you mentioned that you are an entrepreneur and that you are in ministry. Tell me a little bit about the early days. What got you into entrepreneurship in the beginning? What did you do?
Yeah, I think that I was born an entrepreneur. I remember being a little girl and
Snaps.
legit, I kid you not, I would have my mom buy the big packs of colorful gel pens. And
Yes.
and I would literally divide the pens and sell them at school.
Oh, I love that.
So my parents used to have a pizzeria, and literally every single summer, or not summer, because this was in Costa Rica, so whenever we had summer vacation or whatever,
Yeah.
I would wake up super early every day and work with my parents in the pizzeria, as a little girl, because I just
How old are you?
I had to be anywhere from 8 to 12.
Wow, that is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. So anyway, so I think it's always just been in me. And I remember when Martin and I got married, we said one of our dreams, one of our goals is to one day own a business. And so obviously we didn't know what, you know? And so I
Yeah.
had dreams. I had dreams. I remember right after I graduated college, I was like, okay, I either want to open up my own school or I want to be a wedding planner. And so I was
Oh,
like, in that limbo of like, you know, and then
that's like
um
two opposite extremes.
oh yeah, but I don't know. I love
Yeah.
the hustle, you know, and I went to school for children for education and whatnot, but I didn't just see myself as a teacher. I was like, I want
Yeah.
to do. So, anyways, so in the first year that Martin and I were married, Martin asked for a camera because Martin loves anything production, and and so he was like, "Hey, I found a DSLR. It's pretty cheap," and we were broke. Okay, like broke to the T. So I remember we were like, you know, let's try to save up some money and buy a
Yeah.
camera because Martin was like, I really want to get a camera to take pictures of our youth team, our youth ministry, our youth services at church.
Right.
So, anyway, so for that Christmas, our first Christmas together, I bought him a DSLR, a camera, and he just started bringing the camera to church and taking pictures. And he started taking pictures of me. And he would always tell me, grab the camera, babe, learn how to do it. And I'm like, no, I don't like that stuff. And so, anyways, a couple months passed, and this couple randomly approached Martin and I and was like, or approached Martin and was like, hey, I see you with a camera. Do you want to come take pictures at my wedding? And Martin was like, oh, no, I don't do that stuff. I'll just take pictures of your
Yeah.
church, but not of, you know, your wedding. So
That's a lot.
Martin, I know, a lot of responsibility. So Martin told me about it, and I was like, but I'll plan the wedding. Do they need a wedding planner? Because I would love to do that, you know, always throwing myself
Yeah.
out there. And so then, and so Martin was like, no, I don't think they need that. So I'm like, okay, fine. We didn't pray about it. We didn't, nothing. We just were like, okay, we just said no, pretty much. 3 months passed. Martin and I are at this meeting at church and we're in worship. And I feel God tell me the business I am giving you is photography.
Come
And
on.
I'm like, what? Like, no way. And then, so I don't, you know, I was just like confused. I'm like, that's probably, I don't know, whatever. We get in the car after the meeting and Martin goes to me, hey, babe, I think God spoke to me today while we're in that meeting. And I think God asked me to go back to the guy that asked me to take pictures of his wedding and tell him yes.
Oh,
And I'm
wow.
like, what? And so
How
then I told
wait,
him,
how far away was the wedding from like from when you
uh,
got that revelation?
literally 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. And so I said to Martin, okay, I guess you can reach out to him, but I'm pretty sure he already has a wedding photographer. His wedding is 3 weeks away. And he
Yeah.
goes, man, but I don't have his number. I kid you not, I'm not making this up. The guy, it was either that day or the next day, messaged Martin again and was like, hey, I just really feel like you need to be the photographer in my wedding. And Martin was
That
like,
is amazing.
I know.
It's like
And
at that point it's like God is in it and you need to do it.
yeah. And so, and I think, you know, maybe not a lot of people can relate to the story, or maybe some people are like, you know, but I haven't heard God come and tell me like, oh, you know. But I think the point is that if God put that desire in your heart, and if God is opening doors, just say
Mhm.
yes, you know, and
Absolutely.
then from that, he's going to start confirming the things that you need to do and open up the doors. And so anyway,
Yep.
so Martin and I met with the couple for just to explain and be like, hey, we've never done this before. Like, we were super honest with them. And so they were like, yeah, no problem. Like, we just really want you guys to do it. And we're like, all right, okay. So 3 weeks pass. We show up to the wedding. I remember calling our wedding photographers and which is your sister-in-law.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, we have no idea what we're doing. And so literally that day, as we're in the wedding, we called Christy and we're like, this is where we're at. We don't know what we're doing. And she and Vic started like walking us through things and stuff. And
Oh, I
anyway,
love it.
when I tell you, we just winged the thing we did.
That's
But we had so much fun. While doing it, is when God really gave me the love to be like, I love this. Like this, and it's true, like God's plans are always better than your plans, because now I look at wedding planners and I'm like, I would not do that.
Yeah.
You know? So, and I kid you not, we're at that wedding. I remember we're shooting the wedding dress and I get a message from a coworker and is like, hey, I'm getting married in 2 months. Do you know a wedding photographer? And I was like,
me.
I was like, I think I am one now.
Yes.
She booked us.
Wait. Can I ask you like how much you charged for that? Because I love that.
Yeah, for the first wedding, we charged $300.
Oh, let's go.
And what's crazy is that the $300 that we charged for that wedding, it was so that we could rent a better lens, because we just had the kit lens.
Yeah.
So Martin rented, I think it was a 50 millimeter lens.
Yeah.
And so that's why we charged $300. But okay, what's even more wild, okay? Talk about stepping in faith, okay?
We have to be Delulu sometimes. Like, we got to do it.
Well, we didn't have a laptop, not even a laptop we have.
So how do you edit the photos?
Martin borrowed a friend's laptop.
That's hustle. I love it. And if you're new, like if you're listening to this, like, and you're like, whoa, like I could never like start a business without having all my ducks in a row. Just start and figure it out on the way. Like everybody, whenever we're launching any project, no one knows what the heck they're doing. Even years down the road, no one ever knows what they're doing in one way or in another. They might be experts in one thing. Like Meri, she's like, okay, I'm pretty confident in planning. That skill set helps her start this business and plan out these things. But also there needs to be this internal will and this internal faith that like gets you off that boat to walk on waters and to put yourself out there, because business is scary and shooting weddings is scary.
Right.
Oh, I love it.
Right. Can I just talk about that whole like walking on water? Because God has been speaking to me so much about that.
Go for it.
So anyways, I've been just studying a lot about Peter and whatnot. And one of the things that, you know, when Peter is in the boat and the rest of the disciples are in the boat, right, with Peter, when they see Jesus walking on water, and they're all freaking out, like, what is Jesus doing? And so then Peter's like, Jesus, can I do it too? And I just love how bold Peter was.
Yeah.
And he steps out of the water. He starts walking on water, but here's what happened. And I think this is what happens to a lot of us, is that then he started to panic and he started being fearful. And then he started sinking and probably drowning. But what happens is that he took his eyes off Jesus. And then that's when he started to fall. And I think that is what speaks to us, is that, yes, we can be bold, but then we can feel fear. But as long as we keep our eyes on Jesus, he's going to extend his out and be like, come on, buddy, keep going, you know?
Keep going.
So anyway, that's kind of our story on how we started. That year. We booked 10 weddings.
Yup. 10? I got goosebumps.
Yeah.
I got goosebumps. 10 weddings. That is amazing.
And that's when God started to just provide for us to invest in more and better equipment, in courses, in literally everything we could, you know. And so our business was built with no debt. thank the Lord, but it did take a lot of faith. And it also took, we felt like God was opening a lot of doors and we had to walk through the open doors, because sometimes like he opens the doors, but we're not walking through them,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's our story, pretty much how it all started.
That's such an inspiring story. And you know what stood out to me the most is that you guys went into an industry that it's about your artwork, and your artwork also determines how you get booked. Like, sure, the price range is like competitive, like a lot of people would want to save a pretty penny, but it's wedding photos, and it's like once it like no, it's not like a photo shoot that you could just reshoot if the photos come out kind of crappy. Like, it's wedding photos, and it's an industry that comparison just brews in everything, because not only are the brides shopping around, literally comparing your work on a daily basis until they finally inquire, but
Right.
like you and other, like, to get inspired and to find your vibe and your inspo, like, comparison really eats up. And I know that the girls listening to this episode are mostly photographers or creatives, and I myself have found myself in the place of comparison. Even when it comes to like posting a simple reel, I'm like, let me scroll a little bit to get some inspo, and I end up getting in my head so much. So you yourself are also active on social media. You've been in the game for a very long time. You've been doing wedding photography, but you've been doing almost everything under the sun, under the creative umbrella. Can you speak a little bit about comparison, and have you struggled with it, or have you, like, how have you gotten through it? Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, comparison is huge. I remember, we started this thing and I was so excited, because the thing is that, like, when I get excited, I'm like, I'm gonna do it. You get so inspired, you
We're
get
gonna go
bumped
all
up.
in.
We're like, yes, and you do that. You go on
Yeah.
Instagram, YouTube, you go on Pinterest, at that time we didn't have TikTok. You go on TikTok now, and you start looking, okay, but how do they do it, right? Because is that fire in you that just wants to, but then looking for inspiration, there's a
Yeah.
blur line that if we are not confident
Yeah.
in our art and in our identity and in our gift, then we start swaying to that comparison side. And the thing is that, yes, I've been literally even just last week going through it, comparing, like, and it's just like, oh Lord. And it's like every time I find myself in that place, like, I'm like, Meri, snap out of it. He has called you for your unique purpose. It's awesome to see other people do their thing, and that's their purpose. That's their thing. I remember once we started wedding photography, we started shooting literally everything. Babies, businesses, everything. I soon realized though that babies were not my thing, even though as much as literally my career is children. And I was like, this is not for me. We did a newborn testing and it lasted 5 hours and we only got like 10 pictures. Anyways, point is, you live and you learn, honey. Anyways, so, but we were shooting a bakery. The owners of the bakery wanted us to take pictures for their website and stuff like that. And at the bakery, there was another bakery next to that bakery. And I asked the owner, I'm like, okay, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but like, why are you opening a bakery right next to another bakery and right next to a donut shop? Like, what are you doing,
Oh, I know where this is going.
And she said to me, I was shook with her answer. She said to me, the sun has a lot of rays, like sun rays. And I know that one of them is for me. Yeah. And that just blew my mind, because she's like, because if that customer is not for them, then it's for me.
Yeah.
And that, right, just like, I don't know if that's where you thought it was going, but that is it's where like it spoke to me, because I'm like, and then during that season I was struggling with not with feeling like comparison, because you go on Instagram and there's literally photographers right next to you, in front of you, behind you, like it's a sea full of photographers.
Yeah.
So and so anyway, so I just felt in that moment that there's always somebody for you. God is always going to open up the door to send you somebody. And that really helped me with comparison, to see him more in the eyes of inspiration, but drawing that line of like, I know who I am in God, and I know who he created me to be. And one of the things that really helped me with comparison is gratitude. When you are grateful for the gift that God gave you, when you are grateful for the clients that you currently have, when you're grateful for even the struggle that you're walking through, God is going to use it. And what's crazy and even more mind-blowing is that people are also looking at your work, comparing their work to your work. So it's like this cycle of comparison. And honestly, I think the devil uses that to steal the joy of us walking in our purpose.
Absolutely.
Of us walking in the thing that God is asking us to walk in and be obedient in,
Yep.
So, so I would say just be confident in the gift that God gave you. Be grateful for the season that you're currently in. And yes, look for inspiration, but remember to draw the line and snap out of it. Call yourself out and be like, Meri, you're doing it again. No. This God says you are. You know what I'm saying? So is what has worked for me.
Yeah, I wanted to speak a little bit about the bakery being next to another bakery and then next to a donut shop. That's so interesting because now this is a marketing strategy that has always existed, and big business owners and big brands know about this, but small business owners, it eats them alive. The big businesses bank on the fact that they are next to their competitors. If you think about it, you usually find a Wendy's or a Burger King right next to a McDonald's. And the reason why is that all of them have almost equal business, and all of them sell pretty much the same thing. It's just little things in their recipes and the flavors that attracts a specific customer. But it's really that down to, it's the same hamburger, but the seasoning in each hamburger is what attracts, like, oh, you know what, like today, like sometimes especially when I was pregnant, I would tell Jonathan, I'm like, I want the chicken nuggets from Burger King and I want the French fries from McDonald's. And I made my husband at midnight go to 2 different places because I knew that they were next to each other, but I wanted one thing from one place and another thing from another. And the key thing is that they double down on is their marketing on their recipes and how they are slightly different. And they double down on that. Also, you'll see that with like a Nike and an Adidas. Like every big mall I go to, there is a Nike in one corner and an Adidas in another. Back in the day, it was like a Macy's in one corner, and right next to it, there was JCPenney. And it's the same thing. They even partner with almost the exact same brands. And that, like, they actually position their businesses for that. So if you are a small business owner right now and you're like worried about being too close to a competitor, looking too similar to a competitor, there's a demand for your product. And I want to encourage you that people actually, like, putting yourself next to your competitor or out there next to your competitor, people will actually tend to buy more. And it's just a psychological marketing principle to look at. And then on the back end of things, comparison, like how you were saying, it's like such a thief of joy, and it's a thief of success, because when you don't have the joy, you don't show up, and then when you don't show up but somebody else is, they're getting the business and you're not. They're getting the people watching and commenting on their reels, meanwhile you're just sitting back, hiding things in your drafts, overthinking, or sitting on tons of galleries and art that you already created years ago. And you're like, oh, why am I not getting bookings? It's like, dude, just go back and post your amazing work. And you have to love your content before anybody else does. So that's something that I want to jump into next. It's like I have all these girls in this IG boot camp that we're doing, the She Thrives Club. Woo woo! If you're a part of it, amazing. You're showing up consistent. We're getting out there. We're putting ourselves out there. And two things have stuck out to me. One, Meri, one of the girls was like, I sat on this reel for over 24 hours. It was edited, the caption was written, everything was set up, and it took me 24 hours to hit post. Girl, I know you relate to that. And then another girl is like,
I have some laughs. I feel so seen right now.
and me too. And then I had another girl say, I actually have somebody else out like that is editing all my content. It is beautiful. It is chef's kiss. They're investing in that. They're more of an established photographer, yet they still don't post because they don't think that people will actually see it. And they're like, the algorithm is like, it just frustrates me. And they don't end up doing it. Mind you, the content, they have a whole bank of content done. So
wow.
I think the root of it is the comparison bug. And it's like stealing their joy and stealing their success. Like, you have been in this position. You were like, same girl. And you're still sometimes find yourself in that. You said you found yourself in that last week. I found myself in that while starting the boot camp. And I'm telling people to get on there. And I'm like, I'm the example. And I know that this is going to flop on my personal Instagram. But
right.
We just got to get it done. So what do you have to say to the people that relate to that are either we all know we got to get out of comparison. We all know it's bad for us. We all know like we got to trust it and grow in our identity. But like for real, like what would you have to say to that? Because it's almost like we know, but we don't get out of it. We're just always in it.
Right. So, actually, and I even feel so funny saying this because I never thought these words would come out of my mouth. But so last week, one of my TikToks went viral, and literally my TikTok started spamming to the point that the app like it shut off twice on my phone. Like I don't know if that was like a TikTok glitch or just my account. I don't know. But point is that the TikTok started going viral. One of my friends called me because she kept looking at it. And one of my friends called me and she was like, Meri, the TikTok hit 1 million views. And I'm like, what? So I go and I see it. Oh my God. The comments. Why? Why did I do that? Why? I started looking at the comments. And let me tell you, 98% of the comments were beautiful.
Yeah.
And 2% of the comments were horrible. They were literally cursing God out, talking about just me being a bad mom. And that's not true,
Yeah.
So I started feeling anxious and I started feeling like legit an anxiety attack. And it's crazy because I'm a woman of faith. Like I give pastoral care to people that are going through anxiety, that are dealing with fear, comparison, with insecurity, like the whole thing, And in that moment, I just felt paralyzed. I felt anxious. I felt all these things. And so I shut off my phone. I put it on my nightstand and I went out for a walk. And I started talking to God and I was crying on my walk. Mind you, it was like 2 p.m. It was a hot outside. And I'm literally just walking.
That Florida summer is no joke.
And I left my watch, my headphones, my phone. Like if I would have gotten kidnapped, nobody would have been able to find me. But whatever. So I'm walking and I'm
Let's not do that again.
No, but just to tell you how desperate I was.
Of course.
That I didn't know what to do with myself. And I'm walking and I'm like, man, I remember hearing people say stuff like this about Instagram. And I would literally be like, girl, get over it. It's just social media. But the thing,
until it happens.
I know. And so, but the thing is that, it's just social media, but people have so much power with their words that it gets to you. And then now it starts going to your identity. And
Yeah.
so the thing about comparison is that it's an identity issue because it's
Mm-hmm.
rooted in fear.
Yeah.
Comparison is rooted in fear because with comparison, there's insecurities, and insecurities are rooted in fear.
Yeah.
And I'm walking and I'm like talking to God, and I'm like, God, like, what the heck? Like, I'm a good daughter. Like, why are these people being so mean to me? And one, I just felt God tell me, like, yeah, Jesus went through it too. And I'm like, okay, I know. And
Yeah,
then
I know, but like I'm going through it.
no, right. No, and obviously, and then after that, God told me, like, I'm giving you new territory. Are you willing to step into it? And then he told me, have I not called you to be brave and courageous? And I'm like, oh, God, like, he just ministers so much to me, because the thing is that when we start to step into that comparison, then we start to feel weak. We start to
Yeah.
feel like, oh, never mind. Oh, I can't. Oh. So anyways, so yeah, I started to feel like God was calling me to be brave and courageous and to shut down those voices, because those voices weren't truth.
Yeah.
What's true is what God has to say about me, not
Mhm.
even the old lies that are in our heads when we do compare ourselves.
Yeah.
Um, One of my friends, he gave me the book, Do It Afraid. And the book has been sitting, and he gave me that book on my birthday this last year.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is that he gave me the book, and I was like, okay, this is crazy, because I was just literally talking to God and telling him that I am scared to step into a lot of the things that he's asking me to.
Yeah.
And so whatever, the book has been on my shelf for a while, and literally this week I decided to open it. And this is something that the book says. It says, courage isn't the absence of fear. It is learning how to move forward in the presence of fear.
Yeah.
Courageous people do what they believe in their hearts they should do, no matter how they feel or what doubt fills their mind. And that spoke to
Yes.
me, and this is what I wrote. God calls us to be courageous with the gifts He's given us. So step out in boldness, knowing that your gift is your art, which is worshiping the Lord. And what's
Mm.
crazy is that comparison doesn't allow us to worship the Lord with our own gifts, because comparison paralyzes us with feeling fearful. And God is
Yeah.
calling us, not be afraid. I am with you. So that's my whole answer to that question.
That was so good. And the thing about doubt, and I heard this once in a message on a Sunday. They were talking about how fear, a lot of people say, oh, the opposite of faith is fear. But you can't tell me that Moses ran into the ocean and was not 100% fearful, but also filled with 100% faith that he was going to drown and drown all these people. But or that the waves are going to come crashing. So they were saying the actual opposite of fear is faith, and we can even see that with actual opposite of faith is doubt. And we can see that when Peter starts looking down at the water and starts sinking, because
Right?
he felt the fear. He got off the boat and he feel the fear and do it anyways. But then, even though he's looking
Yeah.
at Jesus, he starts looking down and away from him more
Yeah.
because of the doubt in the power of God and in like what is happening in the moment,
Right.
than actual fear. So it's
Yeah.
crazy that you say that, because that's something that's been in my heart for the past year and a half, taking
Right.
these wild, what I call crazy faith moves.
Right.
And I saw it once with my own testimony, was that we had paid off all our debt, aka when you pay off debt, you have no money in your savings account, and we
No.
only had $6,000 left. And the Lord spoke to me that in 90 days we would be signing for a house. And I laughed so hard.
Wow.
I was like, there is no shot that I'm going to buy a whole house. I'm 23 years old. Like, my job does not pay me that much money to like qualify for a house. So John and I walked in like literally crazy faith. And at the moment, everything that I felt like was like a whisper from the Lord was like, be careful with doubt. Be careful with doubt. Like, if it's my will, I will pay the bill. And we started literally walking in this journey, Meri, In 90 days, we generated over $27,000. I don't even know how, because our checks were literally paying, like, getting us month to month. Like,
That's crazy.
like our
That's
checks were
insane.
like, maybe we had a couple, because we're young and we didn't have kids and all that stuff, and we would, but I had like a nice car, so did Jonathan. We had bills and we were irresponsible. And then
Yeah.
in 90 days, on the dot, Meri, I was signing for a house.
Oh, wow.
No debt. And I had extra money to buy furniture and to remodel the house without getting into debt.
Wow.
So,
talk about yeah, for sure. For
my
sure. I
brain,
think
sorry, my brain was comparing myself. I was doubting myself, all of these things. But it's one thing. It's like, okay, you know what? If God said it, if God called me, it's time to get to it.
Right. I think it's just the fear, talking about fear. Like, fear is an emotion that we need because it sends signals to your brain when you're in danger. Like, if a man is chasing you down the street and you don't feel fear, like, are you going to run for your life? So, like, God created fear, the good fear to protect ourselves, But that's also the fear of God, to the point where it's like, you don't want to live a life that is not righteous to him. So you live in the fear of God, that you want to live in holiness, that you want to live in righteousness.
So good.
But then the enemy uses anything God created and he distorts it. And then now it's the fear of failure, the fear of comparison, the fear of not being good enough, the fear of you fill in the blank, and it's like, but then the word says, love casts out all fear.
Yeah.
And so when we are rooted in God's love, we're rooted in his identity for us because we are his children. And so that is a type of fear that cannot live in our hearts. It will, but we need to go back to the Father and say, God, I know that you love me. You want the best for me. And if you're giving me this, I'm going to do it afraid because it's an emotion you're giving me, but I'm not going to let it rule over me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is so good. And can you speak a little bit into how can girls today that are listening to this, anyone in general, how can they apply this, everything that we're talking about in actionable steps and get a win today? Like, it's time that once and for all, enough is enough. Like, we stop dealing with comparison and fear and all of these things holding us back, and to really step into what God called us. So what are something that you advise for people to get off that boat?
Yeah, I love that. This should be like a get off the boat type of preaching. All right, so I started thinking about things that I've done because if you know me, or maybe you don't know me, I'm gonna be raw and honest to the T. And like I said, I am currently in a season where it's been hard. It's been hard to step out of the boat, and walk on water. But so I was like, God, what are 3 things that you're teaching me in this season? So number 1 is to place my identity as a daughter of God.
Yeah.
To not place my identity in what I do, but in who he created me to be.
Amen.
Because the thing is that God can take it away at any moment. Anything that can be removed from you doesn't belong to you.
Yeah.
The only thing that belongs to you is your identity as a daughter of God.
Yeah.
So my first one is place your unique identity as a daughter of God and the purpose that he has for you. And to remember Jeremiah 29:11, that it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future." And we can rely on that as his children, knowing that as a daughter of God, God just wants the best for me.
Yeah.
And so why look at another person's Instagram or business or work or whatever and then think that's better than what I'm doing, when now you're just speaking lies to yourself?
Yeah.
Because God blessed you with your own gifts, with your own talents, with your own art. My second thing is practice gratitude. 1 Thessalonians 5:18 says, "Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus.
Mm.
Practice gratitude. Practice
Yeah.
gratitude. Gratitude is the thing that will set our eyes on the current blessings, on the current process. I was texting with one of my friends, and it was so beautiful because my friend was like, imagine when like this and this and this happens. And it's so beautiful, right? To like dream and like, yo, can you just imagine when that happens? And then I said to my friend, well, but I'm enjoying the process. I'm enjoying seeing how God is doing the thing, you know?
Yeah.
We are able to do that when we practice gratitude because we're grateful in the process. We're grateful what God is doing through us and in us before the big thing happens, before we can see the big dream happen, you know? So practice gratitude when you feel, oh, but they're getting so many more weddings. Oh, but they're doing this. Oh, but they're doing that. Okay, but what is God doing in you? What is God doing through you? And thank Him through that. Because
Rejoice in it. Yeah.
yeah. And rejoice in that. Rejoice in your process. Because what you don't see is what they went through when they started.
Yep.
That's what we don't see. Okay. And then my third one is celebrate others. In a culture where we're so focused on ourselves, when we're so focused on me, celebrate other people. Root out for other people. I love that this is called She Thrives, the boot camp that you're doing, because she is thriving. It's not I'm thriving. It's she's thriving.
Come on.
And
Come on.
that's celebrating one another. The word says to mourn when others are mourning. So let's celebrate when others are winning too.
Yeah.
And I just think that God doesn't like competition. He doesn't like envy. And when we compare ourselves, we start wishing to be somebody else.
Absolutely.
When it's like, just celebrate what God is doing through them. That's so beautiful. And the enemy will always try to find a way to divide us, to make us feel less than. But when we are able to celebrate others, like, it feels good. It's like, you go, girl. Pray for them. When you start feeling that comparison, pray for that person. You don't know what they're going through because Instagram and the numbers and the thing, it's a facade. What's behind that? What is behind that? You know? So,
ooh, that is good.
Identity in Christ as a daughter of God. Number 2, practice gratitude. And number 3, celebrate others.
That is so good. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I loved all of it. That was so powerful. And if you're listening today and you're like, okay, like enough is enough, like I need to walk in this, I recommend for you to like sit down and listen to this part of the podcast again and again. And to, is there any like book in the Bible or a book that you recommend to, like, even if it's not a Christian, like that can help them, like either a resource or something that pops to top of mind for them to like go more into this?
Yeah. Well, number 1, open your Bible. You can't tell me God is not speaking to you when your Bible's shut. Okay.
Yep. Come on.
Then number 2, right now, that book, Do It Afraid by Joyce Meyer. It's been really good. It's been really good. I'm still reading it, not done with it, but just a few lines that I skimmed through, I'm like, oh my gosh, I needed this in my life. Then God even used that book to confirm with me things that He has been working in me. And I'm just like, thank you, Lord. So first, yes, your Bible. And then number 2, that book, Do It Afraid. It's been
that
good.
Is so good. Yeah. One thing that I forgot to mention, that you were talking about like the journey and how God loves the journey. I've been realizing that the posture that you have in your heart during the journey is so important on how fast you get to your blessings. And actually, the part that God rejoices the most in is the journey, because it's the part that you actually need Him. And he
That's
gets to
right.
show off and be your father and to provide for you and to nurture you and to take care of you, lead you,
Love
all of those things. Like he loves the journey and we're so focused on like the blessing, the blessing, the blessing. He's like, what about the mission? Like this is the part where you actually grow. So if you're
it.
currently in a moment of uncertainty, you're in the middle of the journey and you're like, yo, it's been a journey. I'm really ready for my blessing.
One,
Check your heart, check the posture of your heart, and um the Bible says it like ye who is faithful in the little will be trusted with more. Like, are you gonna be faithful when there's like
right.
no one watching your stuff, when there's no one
Come on.
booking your content? Like, are you gonna booking your shoots? Are you gonna show up when no
Yeah,
one's watching? And
right,
that posture right there, it's like it's more of a growth. You can look at it as self development or however you want, but that journey of like, okay,
right,
testing through when no one is watching, when no one is showing up, clocking in
right,
when no, like when your kids are asleep and you're like, babe,
right.
I really gotta like at from 10 to
That's
11, I gotta focus on this one big project and he believes
that's
in you.
so real.
That's
Yeah.
so
So
real.
real.
Like we're currently in that season, like building a studio while having Jonathan having a full
Yeah.
time job. I basically have a full time job. We're running four
Yep.
companies together. Like that's a
Yeah.
lot. And also, I'm a
That's a
new
lot.
mom. Like, well, my baby is
Yeah.
almost 2, but I'm
Yeah.
fairly new and trying
Yeah.
to find
Yeah.
family balance and date nights and all of the things. It's hard, but
We'll talk.
like you said earlier in the podcast, acknowledging what season you're in, not comparing yourself, and really trusting
Like,
the Lord in your journey.
like,
It all also goes down to the posture of your heart in that
right.
journey. If you
Yeah.
are
And
always complaining, if you are always doubting, if you're
mhm.
always like cursing because you are frustrated with how annoying this thing is, but you're like you complain and you curse at the sky and then you're like, oh no, it's fine,
Mhm.
it's fine. Like, I'm just grateful for what I have. Like the original posture is what actually
We're
gets like noticed. So
yeah, but it's
ultimately, sorry,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
I just don't want you to finish that thought with this thought.
Yeah.
Look at the Israelites. They were
And
supposed to, the journey was supposed to be a couple days,
well,
and it took 40 years because of comparison. Did you know that? Because the
yeah,
Israelites, I preached about this
that's
once,
so
the
good.
Israelites kept comparing their life to what their life used to be. And
Yeah.
they were like, when are we going to get to the promised land? When are we going to the
Mhm.
promise? But what's wild is that when they got to the promised land, God had to call Joshua because they needed to go in the promised land and conquer it.
Mhm.
So that's why we can't really just only focus on the final thing because
Yeah.
there's still more work to be done. Because at the end
Yeah.
of the day, the promised land, it's heaven. But while we're
Yep.
still here on earth, there's still going to be things that God is always working in us. And so
Yeah.
the posture of your heart will determine how long you stay in that season.
Mhm. Mm.
How
We're
are you going
cutting
to
that.
stay?
We're clipping it. That is good.
Yeah, the posture of your heart will determine how long you stay in that season. So if
Yeah.
you feel like I'm done, I'm tired, well, then look in your heart, become self aware. You know what? I am not being grateful. I am comparing myself too much. Look at the Israelites, what they
Yeah.
had to do. They were disobedient. And God was like, yo, I'm just trying to love on you, bro. Like, I
Right.
want best for you. And that's how I read the
I
Bible, by the way.
Yeah.
Um,
Same.
yeah,
I read it the same.
yeah. Like a mom version of the, how there's like Gen Z and like,
Yeah.
anyway. So, but yeah, so the posture of your heart will determine how long you stay in that season.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
once you align it to God and his promises and in who he is, watch him do something,
Yeah. Oh, that was so good, Meri. And tell me, where can people connect with you more and see all the good stuff that I kind of know what's coming down the way? But where can they
I
connect with
know.
you?
Yeah, through my Instagram, it's best Meri underscore Duarte underscore. I feel like it's easier for me to reply through there. You
Yeah.
can also go to my website, meriduarte.com, or on TikTok. I'm still getting the hang of TikTok. Honestly, I was not a TikTok girly,
Yeah.
but man, the way that God is using that platform, I was like, okay, God, I'm gonna let you use the thing,
I love it. Let's invade it. I love it. That's so
Yes,
good.
yes.
Also, for those that don't know, Medi has an awesome email list. If you want extra
Oh,
devotional, she has tons of resources for you girls. So be sure to check that out. It's really cool. And follow her because she posts the best content. That is truth
oh,
and that is fun and relatable. So, Medi,
oh.
before we wrap up, what is the best business advice besides all the good ones that you dropped today that you've learned throughout the journey or that you have been feeling lately?
Are you ready for this one?
I'm ready for it.
Because I wasn't until God taught me it.
Oh, let me get my notebook.
I know. It's gonna hurt a little bit, but I promise it's a good one.
Love it.
Hold it loosely. Hold it loosely. Surrender it to God. Because if He gave it to you, He can take it away if we don't steward it well. But also, at any given point, He can tell you, hey, I'm calling you into something else. Are you willing to hold it loosely? Because at the end of the day, if we hold it tight, God can't do anything with it. So,
Absolutely.
God, and if He ever asks you to put it down, is because there's something much better out there that God has for you.
Yeah. We got to make that a whole next episode because we didn't talk about how you transitioned from photography to ministry and how even me with my business, I had to backtrack so much in order to launch into something new. Like when I went full time with my company, the next month I lost more than half of my clients. And I was like,
my God.
whoa, this is humbling. So stay tuned for an episode on that. But in the meantime, I hope everybody was marked and impacted by this episode. Let me know what your thoughts were. DM us, comment in the school chat, wherever it is that you're listening. But I hope that you have a blessed day.
Thank you, Val, for having me. Bye.